Good evening, people. Welcome back to my channel. I am UndeadSick83, your governor of Walking Dead reviews. And today we are going to do a different video than usual. Because today I am actually going to do my very first movie review for you guys. Yes, so let me explain a little bit. I decided that in the new year, I should probably try to do a couple of other things, besides talking about Walking Dead, which still remains the biggest part of my channel, alright? Walking Dead will and always be the #1 topic on my channel. But I decided that maybe I should do some other things as well, probably expand my channel a little bit. So I'm going to try, some other things. And the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to do some movie reviews. I'm trying to do one movie a week. I'm gonna try to review one movie a week for you guys. I hope you will enjoy it. I really hope so. If you have any ideas or comments, leave it in the section down below, of course. And I just hope you will all enjoy this new direction that I'm trying to take. So with that said, today we are going to talk about the first movie, of course. We are going to review the first movie. And the movie that I'm going to talk about today is actually a movie by a director that is very dear to my heart. I love this director a lot because of my love of the 80s, movies of the 80s and stuff. I'm going to reveal the title right now. Today, for the first movie, we are going to talk about and discuss David Cronenberg's Crash. Yes, we are going to talk about Crash, directed by David Cronenberg. And I thought with all of these movie reviews, I'm going to drink some beer. So I have some IPA here. Cheers to you all. And let's dive into this. So, yes, the first movie is going to be Crash, directed by David Cronenberg, and this movie is from, I believe it's from 1996, I think it is. 1996, yes. So, before I start talking about the movie, let's take a look at this, shall we? I got the limited edition from Arrow Video, and just look at this box. This is awesome. This is amazing. Look at this. Look at this. This is beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Absolutely great. Arrow Video is becoming more and more and more my favorite label of all of these labels. They just put so much time and effort into their releases, look at this. It's like I'm not going to unfold this completely, but you get the original poster, of course. And look at this. You got this massive booklet. Look at how thick this is. That's a booklet. You get an interview with David Cronenberg, and see, there are some pictures in there. I have to be very careful that I don't show any, nudity in it, in the photographs. I think I can show this one. Yeah, there you go. You have some pictures there, some comments, some reactions to to other what other people think of the movies and stuff. Just a lot of great stuff. Booklet, really great. And then of course you have the Blu-ray, which is like really awesome. I put the original poster on there, and of course you get tons and tons of credits as usual. Okay, so this movie stars the amazing James Spader. James Spader is one of my favorite actors. I mean, The Blacklist, Stargate, Wolf, I think The Office, if I pronounce it right, The Office. This one, of course. Did I mention Wolf? I think I mentioned Wolf. So many great things that he already did. He was in Lincoln, I think he was, from Steven Spielberg. Really great actor. And he's accompanied by actress Holly Hunter, actor Elias Koteas, who of course we know out of, Sons of Anarchy. And what's it again? Deborah Unger, also an actress. Oh yes, and Rosanna Arquette, who is not a relative to what was it again? David Arquette, who plays Dewey in Scream. They're not related. But Rosanna Arquette. So those are the main actors and actresses. So let's dive right into this. So what is Crash about? Okay, so Crash is about the character of James Spader, all right? James Spader is the main character, and he plays a movie producer. Really, really funny choice, but yeah, he plays a movie producer. And he's married to a beautiful wife, Catherine. And Catherine and James Ballard is James Spader's name. But James Ballard and Catherine Ballard, they are, in a sort of, how do I put this? They are experiencing a sort of like 7-year ache kind of situation. I think that's the best way to describe it. They are in the 7-year itch, the 7-year ache. So they are kind of like, they kind of got bored by their marriage. When you start the movie, it's very clear that they are in an open marriage now. They allow each other to pursue other affairs. And then after they come home to each other, they will share those experiences with each other in the hopes of, making their own marriage more interesting, to find some of the sparks back, so to speak. So that's basically the start of the movie. Then one night, James is, while he's driving home, he gets distracted, and he gets in a nearly fatal car accident. He survives, and he is taken to the hospital, where he meets this woman who also got injured in the accident. And it turns out that the woman who was like injured in the accident was actually the wife of the guy that James killed. The driver behind the seat was, the woman's husband, basically, and he basically passes away. He dies. So he and James starts, with this kind of like feeling of guilt, but over time he develops a sort of, what's the best way to describe this? He develops a sort of obsession for these, car crashes, because he feels like it enhances his, sexual mental state, basically. He gets into an affair with this woman that he almost killed, and together they start exploring like this this sort of like underground car crash ring, so to speak. They meet this woman. They meet this guy who is called, what's his name again? Vaughn. That's his name. They meet this guy named Vaughn who is organizing these underground, car race, car crash, sort of derbies. And they start this whole journey of exploring, the beauty of car crashes and what it does to your your mental state. What does it do to you physically, and even on a sexual and erotic level? What does it do to a person? So, and that's basically where the story kicks off. I really simplified it. There is a lot more to it, but I tried to simplify it as much as I can. So that's kind of like the story. So first of all, I would like to say that I really, really love this movie. I love Crash. And what I find interesting is that this movie is probably the most underrated movie by David Cronenberg. This is probably David Cronenberg's most underrated work. And the reason for that is very simple. Because most people are, familiar with David Cronenberg's earlier work, which is, the body horror kind of thing, like Dead Ringers, The Fly, of course, Videodrome, Shivers, Rabbit, The Brood, all of those things, they are very much, body horror. And David Cronenberg is the godfather of, body horror. So I think going into this, a lot of people expected a body horror, and a lot of people have decided that it's not a body horror. And I disagree with that. I really disagree with that. I really do. This, hold on, let me get it for you. This movie, Crash, this movie is absolutely body horror. It's absolutely body horror. It's, how do I put this? Hold on. So, what was I saying? This movie is totally body horror. The difference is that this movie is body horror on a more mental and psychological level, right? This is much more body horror on a mental and psychological level, because this movie Crash is all about sexual desires and the lengths we go to fulfill those sexual desires, and this movie is also very much about how a physical event like a car crash can lead into a mental addiction. That's what this movie is about. How something like a car crash can trigger a psychological response. So even though you get hurt and you get wounded in the actual physical event, the whole psychological aftermath of that is a direct result of that traumatic bodily experience. And this goes back into many of David Cronenberg's body horror things, right? I mean, this is like you have that with Videodrome, The Fly, The Brood, all of that stuff. David Cronenberg really understands that physical diseases can end game, a psychological effect. And the same goes the other way around. Psychological or mental traumas can trigger physical responses. So, it's really a mix mash of those things. But this movie is very much a body horror. The traumatic event that is a car crash triggers a psychological and mental disability, which triggers a sort of obsession and a sort of almost sort of like a sort of schizophrenia into this need to discovering why this is all so fascinating, right? So yeah, I think people are wrong. I think this movie is definitely a body horror. It's just not a body horror in the way that we are used to David Cronenberg. That's the difference. Fruit for thought, people. Fruit for thought. Alright, so let's move on. So like I said, I think this movie is definitely a body horror. It's just a different body horror than what we are used to with David Cronenberg, right? And in contrast to that, it's also very interesting that this movie embraces the erotic thriller theme of David Cronenberg's movies much, much more. This movie at its core is a erotic thriller. That's what the movie is. It's an erotic thriller with body horror elements in it. That's what the movie is. But in context of the erotic thriller, it has some very interesting things in it. So, for example, the scene where Catherine, James's wife, gets aroused by fantasizing about Vaughn while she's having sex with her husband, basically. It's those kinds of scenes that make this movie so interesting. That whole scene. By the way, there is so much sex in this movie. there is a lot of sex in this movie. But you know what? That's okay, because it serves the story, and like I said, at its core, it's an erotic thriller. So, you just have to go with it. But it has some really weird things. Like I said, the scene where Catherine is having sex with her husband, and she is fantasizing about Vaughn, the underground car rally guy, and the conversation goes as far as to Catherine actually fantasizing about what his semen tastes like. It's so weird and bizarre and kind of twisted, but that's what we expect from David Cronenberg. So, but yeah, it's those kinds of scenes that make this movie so interesting. There is another scene. Let's see what oh yeah. So this is another scene where they are in Vaughn's house, basically, and you have everyone sitting in the room, and they are watching a video of old car crashes that dated, or old historical car crashes or whatever. And you can see them sitting on the couch, and while they are watching these car crash clips, these videos, they start touching each other. They start stimulating each other, and it's so it looks so gritty and dirty and kind of it has a sort of neo-noir kind of flavor to it as well. I mean, it's amazing. It's top-notch filmmaking, in my opinion. So, but it's those kinds of scenes that make this movie so interesting, right? You know, there is another scene where James, the main character, is having sex with the Rosanna Arquette character in a car, but the Rosanna Arquette character is, and she's wearing a sort of like, you know, it's a weird device. It's sort of a mixture between an S&M suit and a sort of like biomechanical sort of brace, right? It's a really weird thing. It's something you would find in a sex shop, basically, but it's such a weird thing. I mean, there's like, she has like this sort of like leathery vest, but it has like a cup in it, and you know, one of the breasts is like, you know, coming out and stuff. It's really S&M kind of. It's really S&M stuff. And you know, when they are having sex in the car, and you know, James is starting to take off her prosthetic leg, you know, just, you know, loosening the bolts and stuff, and just lifting her leg up, and you know, basically taking her apart. Basically, she gets aroused by that. The Rosanna Arquette character gets aroused by that while he's like touching the leather and stuff. And again, it's just such a very interesting scene, which dives into the very dark depths of erotic experimentation. And I just think that it makes the movie so very interesting. It looks like I'm talking about a lot of sex here, but it's I'm sorry. I don't want to make this like a, you know, like a video that you can't watch because it's too dirty. But you know, I have to explain certain scenes, right? So it's it's very interesting. It's very interesting. All right, so let's move on, shall we? I hope you still enjoy my video. It's my first one, and there is a lot of talk about sex, but you know, it has to happen because it's a part of the story, right? So, yeah. But you know, another thing that is very interesting about this movie is that this movie tries to pretend and explain that you don't need an actual physical act to achieve sexual relief. That's what the movie is trying to preach. That's what the movie is trying to tell you, that you don't necessarily need a physical act to achieve sexual relief. You know, because you know, this is the thing. Sometimes the excitement and the tension from something, like a car crash, you know, for example, like a car crash, which is what the movie is, you know, about. But sometimes that excitement and tension from something so traumatic is enough to get the job done. Basically, that's what the movie is trying to tell us. That, you know, you can find sexual. How do I put this? It tries to tell you that you can find sexual pleasure in different ways than just a physical act. I don't know if I fully agree with that, but that is what David Cronenberg is trying to tell us. So I don't know if I personally, I don't know if I would agree with that, because again, I have never done any of these things. That would be, I would be too chicken shit to, to get into any of these things that they do in the movie. I'm just too much of a sissy for that. Yeah, but anyway, that is what David Cronenberg is trying to tell us, whether you agree with it or not. But there is an example of that. There's an example of that. Let me share that with you. There is an example of that. There is a scene in the hospital where after James survived his accident, and he is visited by his wife Catherine, and Catherine actually is telling him all of the details of the car crash and what happened and what the car looks like now, because he blacked out. He got knocked unconscious. He can't remember everything about that particular moment. So Catherine is indulging him and trying to explain, like, this happened, this is what the car looks like, this is the situation, all of that. She is laying out the details for him about his accident, and hearing it, James gets aroused. It's another thing. James gets excited, basically, and the scene ends with Catherine, giving him a hand job, basically. It's again, it goes back into that whole thematic, like, do you need an actual physical act to get that kind of relief, or can you find it in different ways, right? That's the really big thematic of this movie, I think. It's all about exploring sexual boundaries, and no matter how selfish they are, or how hypocritical or arrogant, it's all about exploring these sexual boundaries, whether it's love or lust. That's what the movie is about, in my opinion. That's what the movie is about. But everybody has to decide for their own, what they take away from this. So, all right. So I think I talked about pretty much everything I wanted to talk about with this movie. So what can I say in closing? I think Crash, David Cronenberg's Crash, I really, really love this movie. I think this is a great piece of fiction that is very underrated for me the wrong reasons. I think personally it's underrated for the wrong reasons. But I absolutely love this. As you can see, it won the special prize at Cannes in 1996. So that should tell you something about what kind of movie this is. Yes, it is. Yes, it is sleazy. Yes, it has a lot of sex in it. Yes, it's kind of depressing and kind of bleak as well, because it has this whole underground feeling to it, So it does have all those things, but I think if you dissect that and just look at the thematics of this movie, like sexual obsession, love and lust, the difference between those things, what sex stands for in a physical but also in a psychological mental state, it really has a lot to tell. It really has a lot to tell, in my opinion, and I think people overlook that. I think people disregard that, and just judge this movie on the fact that it doesn't look like David Cronenberg's earlier works. And I don't think that's really fair. Because again, I think Crash is a wonderful piece of art. Really, it is. It is a wonderful piece of art, in my opinion, anyway. And I just don't get the hate that it's, I just don't get the hate that this movie is receiving. But anyway, yeah, it's a great movie. The acting is great. James Spader, he owns every role. He's so great in this. The wife Catherine, Deborah Unger, is amazing in this movie, and she is so gorgeous. By the way, she is so gorgeous. The same goes for the doctor, Holly Hunter. She is a very interesting character, a very interesting persona she has. Just her personal obsession and her relationship with James Ballard, and Vaughn is very interesting. Rosanna Arquette is kind of like a supporting character, but Elias Koteas, how do I pronounce it? I don't. Elias Koteas, I think it is. As Vaughn is a very bleak and disturbing and dark guy who gets off on causing pain and making money off pain, with all of these car crashes and stuff. So yeah, the casting is great. David Cronenberg is a great director. What can I say about this movie? I just think it's, the car crashes are all done very, very well, and they look very realistic. It's not like in many of those crime thrillers where you have car chases and stuff where, you can clearly see that it's fabricated. It actually looks very realistic in this movie, the car crashes. So, yeah, what else can I say about this movie? I think it's a great piece of art. It's overlooked, and it's underrated for the wrong reasons, I think. So in terms of my rating for this movie, let me think. So in terms of my rating for this movie, what do I give this movie? How do I rate this movie? It's a very easy one for me, I think. It's a very easy one. I'm going to give David Cronenberg's Crash, I'm going to give it a 9 out of 10. A 9 out of 10. I just think it's an amazing movie. The only negative that I would give this movie, the only negative that I can think of, is that we don't get to see enough of James Ballard and Catherine's normal life, right? We don't see them having dinner. We don't see them sleeping together, just sleeping. We don't see them going out and meeting friends and stuff. I would have preferred if we got to see a little more of James and Catherine Ballard's normal everyday life at the start of the movie. Just a couple of scenes would have been fine. Just a couple of scenes. Just show me 2 or 3 scenes of what are they doing when they don't have sex. that sort of thing. That's the only negative that I can give this movie. The fact that we don't see these people actually having a relatively normal marriage, basically. I would have loved to see a little bit more of the normal side of things with, like I said, them having dinner and all of that stuff. So, but that's really the only negative I have for this movie. So, yeah, in closing, I give this a 9 out of 10. I think this is a fantastic movie, and I think everybody has to watch this. If you are a David Cronenberg fan, you have to watch this. And if you are a movie fan, you have to watch this. You have to. So, but, you know, anyway, let me know in the comment section down below. What did you think? Have you seen Crash? Did you not see Crash? If you did see it, did you love it or did you hate it? If you did hate it, tell me why. We can discuss and debate. You know, do you have any other things that you want to say about this movie that I, you know, didn't get into? If you did, let me know in the comment section. Again, do you have any, you know, do you have any, you know, wishes for movies or something that, you know, can you recommend any movies to me that I'm gonna review in the future? Let me know in the comment section down below. I want to know your thoughts, opinions, theories, ideas, all of that. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'll be back with another video as soon as possible, of course. Stay safe and healthy. Have a good week, and I see you guys. Bye.